Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our 8th Masterclass of the weekend, and it's my pleasure to welcome Yasodai from Australia. Could we give her a round of applause, please?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming along today. My name is Yasodai Selvakumaran, and I'm a history and humanities teacher at Rooty Hill High School in Sydney, in Australia. This is our school values in terms of persist, and our motto is learning, leadership and achievement. And we are a school that at times people underestimate how well, I guess, our students can achieve. It's not just an issue in our school. Western Sydney sometimes, but often it battles stereotypes that we cannot achieve at the same level as others. It is an area of disadvantage in pockets. Our school has 30% of our student body coming from severe disadvantage. And with that, it brings challenges, but also a very cohesive and collaborative staff culture for us to work, and we've been recognised for that as well. So this afternoon, I'm going to snapshot two aspects of my work, both as a history teacher and as a leader of other teachers. And this work, in terms of this idea of creativity and critical thinking, has been an ongoing project that Rooty Hill High School has been recognised for in Australia, nationally and even internationally as well. So, where do I point this? Okay, so in this session, I'm going to run through some strategies in terms of how I would embed thinking and creative thinking in history, and also going to snapshot how we've worked with staff to reflect on these domains of creativity that we have worked with Dr. Bill Lucas from the University of Winchester to identify, and this is a whole school learning platform that we're working on. So this afternoon, I'm hoping that you'll be able to participate individually and collaboratively in thinking routines and reflection, expand out on what your ideas of creativity are, and reflect on your own creative ways of thinking as well. So this is a picture of our school from the Educator magazine in Australia. That's actually me in there with some of my Year 9 elective history students who trialled a lot of these strategies when we were trying to implement this with staff. And it's one of the reasons this entire project that Rooty Hill High School was recognised for 2 years in a row, in 2016 and 2017, as being one of the 40 most innovative schools in Australia by one of our premier education magazines. So that's, these students are now in Year 11, and I'm hoping I'll be able to show a little bit more about their work in this project as well if we've got time. So in terms of our school context, we've worked with a lot of external partners as well. Thank you. And one of our greatest challenges is that 80% of our cohort start Year 7 below grade average. And so there's targeted whole school learning platforms, this is just one of them, to be able to drive capabilities and dispositions, some people call those soft skills or 21st century skills, within our subject domains. So let me just go on. And we have been recognised as a leader within our system as well, in the State New South Wales Department of Education, as excelling and as a leader in running professional development, both within our system and across schools and networks as well. So where are we and what does this mean for our students? As I mentioned, 50% of our students come from language backgrounds other than English. We have quite a large number of students coming from the Pacific Islands. We have quite a large Filipino community, but we have so many different diverse backgrounds in our school, and it makes it a really rich place to work. In Sydney, we are near Blacktown, which is one of the places just there, which is about 50 minutes from Sydney CBD. So yeah, in the heart of a very rapidly changing area in Sydney. And importantly as well is we have what's considered a significant enrolment of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students. So 5% of our students come from Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander backgrounds. And within that, they come from all different parts of Aboriginal Australia. And one of our key goals as part of reconciliation in our school community has been working with our students for them to be able to learn more about their backgrounds. And as a history teacher, that's something that I'm passionate about with all of my students, and how they can promote that and to give opportunities for them to find out more about their identity as well. So there's actually 3 flags of Australia. There's this one here, the Aboriginal flag, which you may be familiar with, but not many people realise as well, that the Torres Strait has its own flag, and we've got students that come from the Torres Strait as well. And I just wanted to share this photo with you. This is, I guess, one of my proudest moments where I took a group of our young Aboriginal women in year 10 and 11 to Parliament House, where they got the opportunity to see Linda Burney, the Honourable Linda Burney, a Member of Parliament who is an Indigenous woman, speak as well at a function for the Jessie Street Trust. And we were invited back the year after. What the girls are doing up here at the start is what we call acknowledgement of country, which is part of protocol. Now, in many formal occasions where we will be welcomed to any official function, acknowledging the traditional owners of the land. And this was really special because all 4 of these young women come from a different part of Aboriginal Australia. And they were able to share that and welcomed more than 300 guests to this particular function. And this is now a part of what we do within our school as well. So, as a history teacher, and I thought, one thing that I wanted to explore further with you this afternoon is looking at Aboriginal history in Australia. And this is an activity called Zoom In, which you may be familiar with. And I want you to just have a look at this image, and I want you to think about what is happening in this image, why, and what makes you say that. So I just want you to turn to the person next to you, have a think on your own, and have just for 1 minute, a discussion about what you think is happening in this image, and then I'll get you to come back. That's what I'm so excited about. Okay, all right, I'll look at you. Thank you. All right, feel free to come up and have a look closer if you can't see. Now, looking at this image, who would like to share what they think is happening in this image? Oh, she's moving away? Yep. What kind of function do you think they might be at? We've got that they were outside.
They don't like what they are listening to.
They don't like what they're listening to. Could anyone else make out that face? Anyone else come to that conclusion? They don't look happy. Okay, now this activity focuses in one part of an image. Now I'm going to show you the whole image. Now I want you to have a look at the whole image. Has your interpretation changed? Yes, I've heard. Now, again, just have a 1 minute chat to the person you're speaking with. Why or why not? No, so have a look at the whole image. If you want to come out and have a closer look, by all means, please come up. It's hard to see the caption. In looking at this image, did it drastically shift what you thought was going to happen? And quite a few people said they didn't look happy, like looking at this. Now, this particular image is quite a famous image in looking at the history of protest of Aboriginal rights. And it's actually led to continued debates happening in Australia now. So this happened in 1938. And I know this is a little bit hard to see at the back, so I'll just read it out to you. We, representing the Aborigines of Australia, assembled in conference at the Australian Hall, Sydney, on the 26th of January, 1938. This being the 150th anniversary of the white man's seizure of our country, hereby make protest against the callous treatment of our people by the white men during the past 150 years, and we appeal to the Australian nation of today to make new laws for the education and care of Aborigines. We ask for a new policy which will raise our people to full citizen status and equality within the community. So that's actually the purpose of what was behind this protest movement. And by zooming in on that one particular part, I guess I use this strategy with students to see what their assumptions are, how they're deconstructing sources in history, and when you give them the bigger picture, whether the interpretation changes. So within the class, we'll run it very, very similar in terms of, I think, pair share, coming together, but asking students to really question what the source is about. So in terms of making connections, which is another part of our creativity wheel here, linking it to the present. So there's been a big move in Australia with growing protest numbers every year for a campaign called Change the Date. That January 26th in Australia is actually marked as Australia Day. It's a public holiday. There's been a lot of contentious views around that, and this is actually part of our compulsory Year 10 history syllabus to look at the 1938 Day of Mourning and how to come back to look at this. So I guess in looking at this issue, I'm just going to jump ahead a bit. This is a song by a musician called Archie Roach. He's an Aboriginal singer. And I'm just going to ask Ben to play the first part of this. And while you listen to this, I want you to think about what it means.
This story is true. I would not tell lies to you, like the promise said they did not keep. And how they fenced us in like sheep. Said to us, come take our hand. Set us up on mission land. Told us to read, to write and pray. Then they took the children away, took the children away. The children away. Snatched from them all this grace, said this is for the best, took them away.
I'm just going to stop it there. That's just the first verse and the chorus. Does this song relate to anything that you might know about Australian history and Aboriginal history? The Stolen Generations, yes. Has anybody seen or watched Rabbit Proof Fence? Yeah, hands up. Who's seen that movie? Quite a few people. And this is, again, I use a lot of music in my classes and songs because in working with students and at Rooty Hill, we have a very diverse range of student ability. Like I mentioned in Year 7, 80% of our students start below grade average. So we still have some, literacy is a big focus throughout. And I find that in working with all students, if I can get them to empathise first, then it's the first component. And that is actually what I aim to do in terms of my history classes. So one thing I'll then ask students to do, this is another thinking routine called colour, symbol, image. And I'll ask them to actually think about what they've actually heard and to represent that in a colour, a symbol and an image. And this is an example from one of my Year 10 history students who actually, the first thing they did too was relate it to Rabbit Proof Fence before we'd even mentioned it in class. So they're able to link it to the lyrics and explain it. They've come up with a symbol of hands letting go, of how people didn't want to be separated, but they were. And again, they've related their learning to Rabbit Proof Fence again. And I find this to be really, really powerful with students. And I just want you to think about if you had to choose a colour, symbol and image for what you've just heard, what would you choose? So just have a chat with the person next to you. Would you have potentially similar colours, different colours? Just, yes? Red? Why red?
It's a very powerful and aggressive colour.
A powerful and aggressive colour, excellent.
Kind of fight.
Yes, symbolises a fight, excellent. Anyone else like to share?
Black.
Black? Why black?
Morning.
Morning. Thank you. And I find that students, they actually, initially they don't want to do this activity because they think, I'm going to be wrong, I don't know what to put down. And part of this is actually to get them to go out of their comfort zone, to recognise that they need to think about something in a different way. And it's a great strategy that I use, from my students from Year 7 through to Year 12, with them being able to visualise something. And as a history teacher, I'm looking for them to see how they use evidence to justify their particular interpretations, and it's an absolutely brilliant tool to be able to do that. Now, one thing that has also marked both the way that I teach, but also in terms of what our school promotes, is valuing our own community and valuing students being able to explore their own stories. And I want to share with you, thanks to Nita and George Corduroy, 2 grandparents in our communities for sharing their story with us.
Not really. When we came into, we lived in just outside of Rockhampton in the orphanage. I never got to see when we left the orphanage, I didn't get to see my family for about 48 years later. So that was, but now we just, there was just this vacantness in my life that I just kept yearning and yearning and yearning, wanted to see my family. But after 48 years, we got hold of them, in touch with them. We did it I started going through Link Up, but my sister's daughters found out, where our family were, and then we just kept in contact. We keep in contact about every week. So from then on, after 48 years, we just didn't know any culture, didn't know anything about it.
Do you still feel a connection to the land up there?
Yes, I do. It's within me. I love the trees. I love the smell of the land. I love the smell of the earth and the trees and that. And when I hear the birds, that's like a connection there, like anything can go on around us, but if I see the trees and the birds and smell it, it brings me back to when we were living with Granny.
When you go back to your country, there is something within you, it's a spirit within you that you feel at peace with. You just know that you are on your own country. There is something within you that holds you there, that drives you there, keeps making you want to come back. It is something within you that you are at peace with. As you walk along, you can it's very hard to explain. It is within yourself, you walk in this land, this is your land, this is where you are, this is where you come from. And there is a peace within you. It is very hard to explain. When I was up there a couple of years ago, when we stayed at the house and then we moved out to places where we used to camp, where we used to go fishing, where we used to go hunting, the memories that just keep flooding back from when you were young and growing up. It's just a peace of mind.
Now, how did hearing that story make you feel? Sad? Yeah. Heartbreaking? That's often what students say. Now for them, when we did this project as part of some commemorations for a week called NAIDOC, which is all about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture, and it was initially like a week where, and still is, where particular issues are raised and also celebrated. We made this as part of a project, and every year we make a film around this, and this is one that I was involved in. But the students, when they see this, we do it for the whole school. We commemorate it, so every opportunity is an opportunity to learn about the stories in our community. And then when they learn about it in history as well, they see that this is actually impacting the people in our community, and that these are grandparents of students at our school. So one thing that, in terms of challenging assumptions, what was, I guess, the most surprising thing about that video?
They still hurt so long ago when they were taken away.
Yep, they still hurt. Now, Nita talks about how she didn't know where her family was for 48 years. And that's the part of this that our students just find, so amazing and so unbelievable that it's taken that long. And unfortunately, there are many families who are still going through that process. And even students in our own student body who don't know if they have got Aboriginal heritage or trying to track down their families as well. So the removal of Aboriginal children and Torres Strait Islander children continued until the late 70s in Australia. So it's very, very recent. We see the impacts of this in our own community, and trying to be able to share stories about this is how we're working towards reconciliation as well. So I just want you to think about, and it's been a very, very brief sort of snapshot of Australian history and a very contested component of Australian history. Why do you think January 26 is a contentious date? I know there's a few Australians in the room, so I'm going to leave them out of it. And sorry, Ben, do you mind pressing on that link? The link, please. Thank you. If you could get your phones out, please. I'd like you to actually write down something and share it so it's visual. This is one thing as well in trying to share our ideas and not being scared of it, because it's not going to say it's you when it comes up on the screen. So in terms of why January 26th is a contentious day, I know this might be a little bit more confronting to be able to share rather than putting it up anonymously. I guess in history we try and look at multiple perspectives. So that is where I guess all of this ideas come from, and it's something that is, again, an issue that we look at it's happening in our communities like right now, and is an important part of reconciliation. Now, in looking at this as well, like for students, I'll actually get them to look at arguments for and against, because as a history teacher, I'm getting them to really look at the issues of social justice, what they think their response should be, and what they're going to advocate for as well, and leaving that choice to them, even though we will analyse these issues as a class. Now, I want you to just quickly snapshot what this wheel is. This was developed in association with Dr. Bill Lucas from England, from the University of Winchester, and we've had an ongoing relationship with him since 2014. And he has actually written about these areas being components of creativity. And on your desks, you'll have a sheet here as well. So I just want you to have a look at this more closely in terms of what these domains are. And in reframing creativity as being parts of these domains has enabled us to think about what it is to be imaginative, inquisitive, persistent, collaborative, disciplined, with a range of strategies. So our teachers are using the same language in talking about learning to students, and students become familiar with this as well in talking about their learning, and it's been a real strength in being able to drive what this looks like across the whole school level. So what we found that we actually had to start as a staff to be able to look at what these areas mean, okay? And there was a lot of professional learning, and I'm just one part of a large team that has worked on this, to be able to think about what this means in terms of creativity. When we started, a lot of our staff said they weren't creative. How can we teach creativity if we don't think that we're creative? And so the journey in terms of leading teacher professional learning has been around us really thinking about how we are all of these attributes, because if we're going to be leading students, we need to be confident that we can do it and that we can talk about it confidently so they can as well. So part of this has included action learning, the visible thinking strategies. A lot of these are from Project Zero and Harvard. And promoting teacher self-reflection using classroom observation. So it's been an effort across multiple mediums and initiatives to be able to get to the point that we're going to. And so, again, sorry Ben, next one please. I want you to think about these questions. This is what we asked our staff. So we really wanted students and staff to expand their understanding of critical thinking and creativity, how critical thinking and creativity can drive the other dispositions. We really thought that both of these were key in looking at all of the other capabilities and skills that we talk about, and using self-evaluation as well. Thank you. So I want you to just think about who here is working in a school. Quite a few people. Okay. I want you to raise your hand if you've had a literacy coordinator in your school, or that's a big focus. If you have a numeracy coordinator. No. Oh, same thing. But does anyone come from a school where you have a capabilities coordinator? Or dispositions of skills. Fantastic. So that's what we realised that we needed to do to make this a focus with our staff. Now, these are the Australian curriculum capabilities that we've actually set up and created, or the school has created a hub where students upload evidence of their learning against this, and the students own it. It's their portfolio, and they are able to update that with their best work throughout. And we as teachers can validate that. This is what it looks like for them. It's in student-friendly language. And I want you just to finish off to think about, on that sheet, if you've got a pen or a pencil, or feel free to just have a discussion about it, is if you're looking at this, where do you think your strengths are in terms of creativity, critical thinking? And this is an activity that we have done with our staff multiple times to see if our understanding of it has grown over time. So something that you can take away and have a go at. And I've also got some more information on our case studies here as well for anybody interested. But thank you for coming along this afternoon, and if you've got any more information, please come up. I've got it here. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.